Hey everybody. Oh, I got some smoke coming up over here. Y'all see that? That's my tea. But here we are for another episode of What's the Big Idea. I'm so excited today to be alive and breathing. That is the general affirmation with which we begin this show is yes, we are here, we are alive. Thank all of the divine and benevolent beings for that truth. And gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. And I am, in the spirit of gratitude, very grateful on this Thursday, February 18th of 2021, to be sitting with my dear friend, Kim Pevia, for this episode as my co-dreamer. So in the flow of this show, I will let Kim introduce herself and bring her on in so we can get started with our conversation. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Ron. So happy to see you.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. What a blessing. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Right now, I'm in this sweet little spot. I got sage burning and candle burning and tea, and here with you, got my gourds. Like, hey, life is good.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm so grateful to have you with us. Kim, what would you like folks to know about who you are and what you're bringing to the show today? The bio that you shared is in the show notes on YouTube, but what are you interested in having people know about who you are as we start our journey together today?
I love that because it changes, depending on the day. Yeah, so Kim Pevia, use she, they pronouns. I'm calling in from Red Springs, North Carolina, which is the land of the Lumbee, Tuscarora, and Chiraw. I'm a native futurist. I really am curious about what we can create over there, and especially returning to indigenous ways. I'm a hope dealer. Yeah, I'm always believing in hope. Dream doula. Really love to be there, in it with folks as they're birthing their dreams. Definitely a love activist. Love to move with the ethos of love, not the mamby-pamby kind, but powerful kind. Sadly, I'm a non-practicing lover. If y'all can help a sister, send somebody my way. I'm a artist, a student, a friend, an indigenous woman, and curious by nature. There might be some things I'm showing up with today.
Thank you. All beautiful things. And I hadn't thought about what's the big idea being a place for people to list personals, but that could be a thing too. So to all future and past co-dreamers, if you're looking for a someone, go ahead and put it out there. Maybe you'll get a cute little person sliding up in your DMs. I don't know.
Nikki Brown and I used to talk about getting a movement boo. Everybody needs a movement boo.
That can be complicated sometimes. But yes. Okay. I love it. I love it. Well, I see we both got our mugs lifted as the South goes through this cold snap, sweep set of storms. Prayers to all of our people where it is cold and there is not the infrastructure for such coldness to be weathered with warmth and ease. But Kim, this is a show that we're also talking about pleasure. So I would love to know what in your space, in your place, is bringing you pleasure while we connect here today.
What in my place is bringing me pleasure? I've been spending some time decluttering. So like space where stuff used to be, great pleasure. Like, like it really just makes me giddy. I'm like, wow, I have all that room over there. Like got rid of tons of CDs. They were taking up like a whole half a room. Yeah, so the decluttered space is giving me great joy. I still have really beautiful purple mustard greens growing outside that I'm actually looking at now, and pansies are bringing me great joy. I was writing this morning and just like having the notes of that, just sitting by. They have nothing to do with this conversation, but that's bringing me joy because that was just a juicy journaling. This tea is bringing me pleasure, and seeing your gorgeous smiling face and the energy you always bring is bringing me great, great pleasure right now.
Thank you so much. That's great. For my pleasure show and tell, I also have a mug in a similar like tone quality here. It's a little blue situation. All my mugs are blue. I don't know what it is. It's very peaceful. It's a little kidney liver tea to help strengthen those organs. So feeling good about that. I have let's see, what else is bringing me pleasure? Oh, I always like t-shirts. This t-shirt says, "In the future, there are Black queer people," which I really love. By this artist Kendrick Day, I think out of New York. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of pleasure just being alive right now. I'm just grateful to be alive, and I'm finding that pleasurable. And also happy to be here with you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and lifting up our friends like in Texas and that I was sitting this morning really aware that many of them are in frigid states right now. Like I can't even imagine from what I'm seeing on the news of how they're having to live and drive around. And we actually had a meeting canceled with somebody who said, I'm house hopping with my friends because I don't have anywhere to be. We're trying to find places who have like fireplaces. And so the fact that I am warm right now, drinking beverage, I have sage wafting here, I have a candle, like I have so many very levels of warmth. I'm just deeply grateful right now. Yeah.
Prayers to our people. And there are some really great resources out there that I'm starting to see for folks who are organizing a lot of online mutual aid work. So please go check out. I've seen a bunch of stuff on IG,
Yes.
In particular on Instagram, that's been circulating where there are folks who have been doing some longstanding work to take care of houseless folks, but also who are organizing to take care of folks who are in houses that aren't functioning very well for their warmth and protection at this time. So I've been doing what I can from where I am, and I hope others can chip in as well.
Indeed. Beautiful. Yeah. Mutual aid. We save ourselves. Who's going to save us?
Oh, Lord, don't we know it? Don't we know it? Especially here in the South.
Yes.
Especially in non-urban places, don't we know it? Really increasingly everywhere, don't we know it? It's people who have been on the outside of safety nets, quote unquote, for our entire existences as peoples, particularly in this particular settler colony and state. We know that the only people who got us are us. So,
amen. Wow. Ooh. About that. They're preaching on.
Well, Kim, you know, we're just flowing all over the place. We kind of already started flowing into the venting session, but I want to back up. I was about to go there. Okay, I'm gonna pause and rewind a little bit, and I want to ask you if there are any intentions you have for our time together before we get into it.
To be as fully present with you as possible and see what is trying to happen that created this moment for us.
Thank you. Yes. I feel like that's always my intention in these conversations, to be as present as possible and to enjoy them. So, yeah.
Big I, big J, enjoy.
Yes. 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 Well, I love the venting session. It brings me a lot of joy, actually. And to jumble this a little bit, we will each have 2 minutes, Kim, to whatever is on the surface of our being that needs expression and release that so that we can free up space. As you were talking about space in your house, we want to free up some space in our bodies and in our psyches to do this dreaming and visioning work together today. So you're going to get 2 minutes, as unfiltered as you feel comfortable being. Just go, say what you need to say. And then when your 2 minute timer goes off, We will breathe together and continue the release, focusing on that exhale. I will then have 2 minutes, same process. We'll end with breath, and then we'll move into the dream space. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds lovely.
All right, I'm gonna get my timer. Should have had it ready before, but that's okay.
It's all
We are
good.
in a space of grace. Here we go. 2 minutes. Tell me when you're ready for me to hit the start button.
I'm ready.
Okay, go.
So, like, how is it that keeping ourselves safe has become so highly politicized? I, as a Native American woman, have always been aware of genocide and carry that in my body. And I feel heightened right now, almost like I can imagine our bodies were innervated with the smallpox blankets. The fact that I walk out of my house and people won't wear a mask, simple things like masks that we know can keep us safe, that people won't wear them, that have now become so politicized. The climate has become politicized. What's happening in Texas right now has become politicized. Like, when did our hearts become, not when did they become, because we know they've always been, but it's so infuriating to witness people act out of other concerns rather than care for human beings. And it's literally about power grabbing and politics, and not about our care and our safety and our well-being and our moving forward and our existence. And this thing of necropolitics that is predetermined who gets to live and who gets to die is enough to make the blood boil. And it feels like, for me, it's like this deep blood memory thing of like, oh, y'all really do want us to die. Like, that's feels like it's your whole purpose to just totally wipe us off the face of the earth. Indigenous brothers and sisters, Black and brown brothers and sisters, anybody marginalized, it seems like the whole thing. If you're not really wealthy, can't get access to things. And it's irritating me. And I'm even having some frustration with some of my wealthy friends who can get access to this, friends who drove from New York to Florida to get and they're good, well-meaning people. But I'm like, y'all, this is ridiculous that we don't have equal access to things that keep us all safe. If we've learned nothing else, we've learned that our connection to each other is very real in this pandemic. And what happens to one happens to the all. We are one body. I carry that in my indigeneity, that we are all relatives. We are all related. Did I have time left?
Look at you. How are you going to vent perfectly, get it off your chest, and pause right before the 1 second mark? Okay. All right. Let's do some breathing. Let's honor what you've shared. Let's release it. Finding ourselves in connection with the earth and thanking her for her constant support. We inhale. And we release what is needing release. We inhale. And we release. We inhale. And thankful for our breath, we release. All right. Here we go. 2 minutes. How am I feeling? What do I need to say? I don't know. This is the first time I've been in a venting space where I feel lost for words. I feel the story circle teaching I've had from Junepug Productions here in New Orleans. And silence is a story. So maybe that's just what my 2 minutes is today. Mostly silence. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. I have a niece who I deeply adore, who just turned 1. And I want there to be an earth for her that she can live in. Yeah. And I feel like there are a lot of people who don't care about that, who are caring about something else. And I'm not quite sure what it is. Power, yes. Comfort, yes. But I find it so hard that people don't think about the generations to come in their decision making. That's it. All right. Breathing in and exhaling and releasing whatever that silent thing is in my sternum that needs release. All right. Inhaling and release. Inhaling. Release. One last inhale. Release.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk dreams.
But that's all I'm going to say. Thanks for letting me vent. I realize that is something I don't do out loud. Like, it's not something I do. I do it in my morning pages, but now I think I might read my morning pages out loud because there's something very powerful in the vocal expression of that. Yeah, so there was some resonance in my body about speaking that. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that feedback. I really love the venting space. I think it's very important. And I think about testimony in church growing up. I think about ritual spaces and ceremonial spaces I've been invited into in other cultural contexts. And there's this importance of being witnessed. There's this importance of being heard. There's this importance of having one's story held in circle that I've learned a lot from. And I think though we be but two, we are points on a circle somewhere in this space, digital or otherwise. And I think it's important to hold space for folks to say what they need to say. It's real. So I'm grateful that was useful and felt good for you. And I'm also grateful to be able to share that space, create that space with you.
I love it. I used the story circle process yesterday in a very corporate structure because the workshop was around creativity and entrepreneurship. So I wanted to do a creative practice in there. And at the end, people were like, what just happened? They had not had a democratic experience of witnessing story as a way of communicating real information. So yeah, another John O'Neill and June Bug and Free Southern Theater.
Yes, indeed. Well, Kim, we'll start off this segment like we started off, which is I would love to know. You said you're a dream doula, I believe.
Yeah.
I love that. So what are you dreaming about and visioning for our collective future? What's on your heart and spirit as we gather today?
I'm really dreaming about love. Like I pulled down all my Leo Biscaglia books, my Bell Hooks books, everything I've ever read about love, and even scriptures and all the places that we talk about it. But I'm curious about it as a working love, as an activation. I will often have the news on with the words off because I'm doing a workshop or something and it's over my head. And just watching the energy without words, you can just see what fear is being created. And fear is a powerful force. We're energetic beings, and fear will allow things to orient around it. And I'm curious how we can conjure enough love inside of ourselves as that it's so magnetic and radiates from us in a grounded body that will cause others to want to orient around that love too. And I don't mean mamby-pamby love or codependent love. I mean the kind of love that settles bodies, that offers resting space, that that works. And I'm actually calling this working love. And I mean, like, how are we going to bring this divided nation together if we don't use love as a tool, as a rumination, as a working thing that gets into the soul and the fabric, like kneaded into the dough? Because we all say we love, but like love is a practice, not love is something that sits over there. I mean, love is a real undulation. And I've been practicing and witnessing, and it's really quite fascinating. Like, you know, to be upset by something, you know, stimulus, and then to want to react to it from our biology, which is, you know, fear or hurt or frustration, but then to begin to apply or work in the love. So the first version might be like, screw you. Second version might be, okay, let me breathe and a little screw you. Third version, as we work the love in, might be, oh, I'm beginning to see your point. Fourth version is, how do we hold both? And maybe fifth version is that we've worked our love enough to begin to dissolve the difference between us. So this thing of working love, I think is, I don't know, I just love experimenting with life and playing with things and seeing what they do. So just trying it on for myself has been really cool, and it's settled my vagus nerve. I feel more grounded in my body. I feel that I can actually conjure love to offer to other people. So I'm just curious about love as literally an orienting force that can help counterbalance the fear that is so present with everyone right now and is activated because it comes with our biology. And then it's just been reactivated in these highly traumatized situations in which we find ourselves. Because what are we going to do post-COVID? Like, if we're not intentional in settling our bodies, what are we going to do? So that's what I'm dreaming about. Like love is a real activation and spirit and energy that people feel and experience in our presence.
Yeah. Can you, I'm curious if there's an example of love at work. Talked about working love.
Yeah.
From your experience, you know, whether interpersonally or in groups, and, you know, with whatever level of specificity or non-specificity you need to share in terms of not naming names if they don't need to be named. But yeah, what does, I would love to get more of a sense of what love at work in your experience looks like.
Yeah, and I really do it. I write it in small letters, and it's working with a little floating thing to the word love, because I hold it in the ways of, it's literally that we have to take it off the shelf, this thing called love, and work it into whatever our experience is. And also, I'm raising the question of love in the workplace. Like, I'm really, as I'm doing corporate training, bringing love as a tool in the toolkit to corporate America. So in the working love space, in the interpersonal space, it was during the holidays when, and right after the January 6th thing, when I coined the term, because dear childhood friends of mine, we were raised in the white evangelical church together, were beginning to, the Facebook pages were getting intense about, oh, you were crying for freedom of speech, and now they're taking our freedom of speech. And so that's when I began to realize that our paths were diverging in many of the ways in which we were believing. And my first biological instinct was to be like, oh, cancel. I'm not going to talk to y'all. No, just done. And as somebody who does emotional and somatic justice and liberation work, I was like, but that doesn't settle well in my body to actually separate whole swaths of people. It just didn't rest with me. And I remember reading a few years ago this thing. I need to go find the original quote because I now have work around it. But it was something like, there's more to me than you know. Let's work our love to understand each other better. And I thought, this thing of working our love, not as just this noun that sits over there, but rather a verb. And so in the Facebook space, I was writing off to the side, and my first thing was like, screw y'all. I'm sorry I ever knew you, like all the bad things that came from that. And then I began to think about my parents who had relationship with them, and how could I honor all of that space? And so I began to speak to them, offering them things that they just didn't know, and a space to go learn them rather than say, screw you. And to say, we just had different experiences, and to find your body resonance and to witness your desire to power over me. So to offer them things for inquiry rather than to cancel. And so then from that have come other conversations that we will literally work our love. We'll go as far as we can. We'll stop, we'll pause, we'll let our biology settle. So it is literally working love into the fabric of what we're doing. So it is the grounding practices that we do, but it's also for me this thing of love that is an orienting field. I'm clear that when I'm sitting on Zoom spaces with folks, I can either lean in and really like conjure love for them, or I can sit back and be in a judgmental space, which is kind of our, if we don't catch ourselves, it's going to be our nature. So just how do we continue to return to love, reorient to love, have it a space that we want to be in? And I know it's amorphous because it's something that I'm, crafting and working as I go, but it's a dream space.
Yeah.
Is it useful for you to pick up and understand its practical application?
Yeah, I think this case study, this example of, people call it our polarizing times, or times where we're living in different information universes than other folks. And you talked about learning, and part of what I heard you say, tell me if I'm correct, is that really saying you don't know my story fully. I want you to understand my story. And I'm curious, we trouble ourselves a lot with the truth and facts. And I think what we are witnessing now is the importance of story, and how story can be used as a weapon, and it can be used to build or destroy, right? We have a lot of destructive stories floating around, personal and collective. So where am I going with this? Where I feel like I'm going is how, in those spaces that you've been holding, and what I'm hearing you say is that you've been holding space for conversation with people that a lot of folks I don't even know how I would engage, and on Facebook of all places too. What is the love work that is required to have people learn each other's stories when there's so much violence in the way sometimes?
Yeah. And for me, a lot of that is somatic experience. So we have violence everywhere. We have violence in our language. I was on a call with some UNC students on Friday, and she's like, well, can I shoot you an email if we have questions? And I'm like, well, if you shoot me an email, I might be injured, but if you send me one, I can respond. I mean, it's just amazing how much violence and militarization we have in our language. And it, depending on your level of sensitivity, for me, every time I hear those words, there's an impact on my body. And I feel clear about that. So for me to find that space inside myself first, and really this thing of loving myself, it's not when I talk about work and love, it has to start with me first. I really have to love myself raggedy and all, brilliant and stupid, scared and courageous, to love all of that. And so when I find that inside myself, it just creates a space for other people too, and a genuine inquiry, because I'm clear that there have been times when I was lost in my thinking, and somebody's judgment or shaming me of that never allowed me to be in a different space. And I'm curious about the culture we're creating for people to even change their minds or see something different. If we then ridicule people and say you're a flip-flopper, how do we woo? I don't know any other energy that can woo or even come against fear other than love. And so how do we use that thing that we're talking about in very real ways? And so for me, it's to ground myself, to try to find as much embodied way of being. And so it was in my body that I was feeling pain about disconnecting from people from my childhood.
Mm.
It didn't mean that there's not time for that later, but for me, that means there's still something I had to offer that
Hmm.
that my energy needed to offer, for me to be released from that, because I can't carry stuff from one place into the other and be whole and grounded as I come through. So it's a very embodied space that I live in, and being grounded as much as I can, so I'm aware when something else enters the space,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and want to apply love to that. It's an offering. But it's a practice, and I'm probably only 8% good at it because it's new, and it's a practice. And and I've been really doing it with my friends too. But it's a deeper love. So a friend of mine wrote an article and quoted me and didn't quote me in it, and so I sent a note back. Oh, great article! Interesting to see myself quoted but not quoted. Working
Mm.
love. And so they sent back, oh, I'm sorry, I should have really done something about that. And then as we were working our love, I was also like, oh, that was very egoic of you, Kim, to even care that you were quoted. So, but then I got to apply love to myself for being egoic. And then it became this really beautiful, well-rounded, not these little boxes that our relationships are being in, of like fine and thank you and great, and we don't speak. Like, I think to know people fully, it requires us to work our love and to get to see, like you said, the story, me telling my story, not you conjuring who I am, but me getting to fully unfold. And it's an invitation for others to do that too, because quite often in conflict, we are stuck in that very colonized right, wrong, good, bad. And there's often ways to shift it, to see things differently until we can hold both and then see what we want to do going forward. To me, that's one of those places of working.
Yeah. I have a dear friend, Laurel, who's been on the show, who has an agreement with her sibling that anytime they find themselves in a conversation where they're like using binaries, they stop. They just stop talking.
Love that.
And say, wait a minute, something needs to shift here. We're in a good, bad binary. We're in a insert whatever other binary. That's not going to help in this time. So I hear the wisdom in that. We've got some Alternate Roots family in the house with us live. Darren Brawley, Camille Schaefer. Hey, y'all. It's so nice to see you in the comments. Thank you for being here with us today. So, Kim, I'm curious. You talked about judgment a few times here. What do you feel is the relationship between love and judgment?
For me, the absence of love is when judgment creeps up, because fear is one of the kinfolk of judgment. So, like, somebody might be getting too much shine or being too smart or any number of things could be coming up. And really, it's our biology. If we fully understood what's happening in our biology that then governs our actions, we would be more inclined to return to our body and understand what's happening in our biological state. Because our biology comes with a fear component that then causes us to want to power over other people automatically and autonomically. And then as we begin to settle that, we can create ever more space for other people.
So is judgment in this case taking up space where love could be residing?
Yes, I think it's laziness. You know what I mean? I almost think it's our automatic. Like, love feels like it requires a little more conjuring, and fear and all of its cousins, judgment, criticism, confusion, procrastination, all of them just come more naturally because they're stronger wired to our biology. Fear is wired to our biology and all the other ways that we do it as well. Where love is something that we come with, but we almost have to conjure it, reach for it, work it.
Yeah, this is not in my territory of deep knowledge, sort of like evolutionary psychology or the relationship between our biology and our emotional responses. But I am really interested in like this. and maybe this is like a binary that we can abolish later. But sometimes I like to offer things that we can just disassemble. But this notion of fear is sort of an automatic or immediate, unthinking response to a stimulus, and that's like a threat, right? Like a threat, perceived, real or otherwise, whatever perception is reality, right? So there is a threat, fear is a response. And you're describing love as sort of like a
Anecdote.
work. You're like working. This is you're weaving your love. I'm like grinding it or something. I don't know. What is that? That's some somatic information, Ron.
Hello.
Love. And you're like, love. Okay, so I learned something today. But yeah, I don't know. Words are not my specialty today, apparently. I'm thinking about effort, I suppose. What I'm hearing you say is that love requires effort and intention. And so I'm curious, since you seem to have a handle on this that I certainly don't, but I also know that there are biological love responses, right? Like we do have some things that, and maybe they're not love, I don't know. But I think about, for example, when I see my 1-year-old niece being really cute, and I think I have a biological love response to that, which is to say, I want to care for this person and make sure that she is okay as she toddles around on this floor that could hurt her if she fell. I am a desire to care for and steward her body. Maybe that's a fear response. I don't know. But what I do know is that all of her cute and all of my understanding that we have a connection familially makes my body go care for this child, right? So I'm just curious what the biology of love is for you, and or where does that potentially emerge as intelligence that we have to draw on somatically?
Beautiful. Yeah, so really the lizard brain will send impulses through our system that will create more than 80% of our decisions being based in fear. That's just an automatic thing that happens. And yes, we also have an automatic response to people that we love. And the vagus nerve is the biological part of that, like the physiological part of that helps us create those lovely endorphins in our body. And it sits behind the eyes, and we'll notice that when we look at each other, there's something in that energetic exchange that will touch the vagus nerve between two people. And I describe the vagus nerve as like the thyroid of our emotional and spiritual well-being. And so it is capable to activate. I mean, I remember being at Roots a couple of years ago, and this is when I fell in love with Elise Witt. We were invited to sit for 2 minutes and just look into the eyes of another person. And I didn't understand the language at the time, but what was happening was that we were orienting each other in through the vagus nerve. And like you literally will begin weeping when you look at somebody for long periods of time in the eyes. So there is a part of our biology. And so that's what I'll do. I'll ground myself. I'll lean in. I'll begin to look at the person and do what I call contouring love. But it's really just letting the vagus nerve do what it does, which is to send loving energy to another human being.
Okay. So that's really interesting.
And there's a joke I make about it because some of the folks I work with at Cephs say that I say vagus nerve baby. So it's going to be vagus nerve baby. What happens here resonates.
Okay.
Well, it's not what happens here stays here, because that's not true with the vagus nerve. It's like if yours is out of whack, then you radiate frenetic energy. But if yours is grounded, you radiate grounded energy. And all the places in between.
Can one person's grounded vagus nerve energy help ground other people's vagus nerve energy?
Yes, subtle energy makes substantial field shifts. Yeah, of course.
So for example, if I were having a very frenetic, energetic moment and you were feeling very centered, and we said, we're going to share eye contact for 2 minutes, there's a possibility that that process in and of itself could help me center.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. For sure. For sure. And even just resting in the energy, you know, we could just be together, just inviting somebody into an energetic space of, let's just settle ourselves, let's just ground ourselves. Because, and that happens a lot. I'll enter space, and especially in corporate America, you know, I ground in between every call, I ground in between every experience. I want to come as deeply tethered to the wisdom that comes from places other than me, the wisdom that created this space for us. I want to be in alignment with that, which means I ground. And then as I ground, um, I create a resting energy that I hope others can be invited into. Because when we do that, we do get greater wisdom, and our intellect can really come to serve our spirit, because that grounded space gets whisperings of what's next. It gets whisperings of what's past. It knows things way beyond this mind could ever conjure. Then I get to apply the brain to that thinking. But yeah, it comes from a deep desire to be grounded, and it creates for me such a resting energy that to be absent from that it calls me back, and it calls me back enough to want to invite others into it as well. Those that want to be there, you know, if I'm not a fan of suffering, not necessarily, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can't suffer enough to help other people. The less I suffer, the more my creative skills and abilities to help other people, you know, can be useful.
I can't suffer enough to help other people.
Nope.
That's some deep wisdom right there. I haven't heard it said like that. I love that. I'm gonna get a T-shirt with that on it. I don't know.
The merch.
Make a little meme. Kim Pevia. I can't suffer enough to help other people. That's really profound to me. Thank you. I see. We have a whole roots menagerie here. I'm imagining. I don't know. I love it. And Kathy Denaburga has also chimed in, talking about working love like a pot of herbal salve in her pocket, kneading into my gnarled, knitted fingers, stiff with resistance and fear. Thank you, Kathy, for your poetry as always, and sharing the wisdom that the vagus nerve is calmed by deep breathing. Yes.
Indeed.
So, Kim, what does that grounding work look like for you? You've talked about the importance of grounding and mentioned that a few times as well. What is your grounding practice, or what are some of the tools in your grounding toolkit?
So simple ones are really just somatic, sort of like we did earlier, just grounding my butt into the seat and beginning, you know, connecting with my hands, with my legs, and noticing the rise and fall of my belly. And then one of my favorite grounding practices is, as I'm noticing my body, to find something of beauty for my eyes to rest on. And then to practice metabolizing that beauty. Like, how do I take that beauty over there and bring it into my body to metabolize it through my eyes? So that for me connects me with all things beautiful, and it's sending beauty into my body, and beauty in my body is a very grounded thing for me. Through the olfactory sense, I do ceremony every morning, which is a very grounding practice. For me, even just walking through doors in my house, as I'm passing through them, just to take a deep cleansing breath and to be grateful. If it's really heavy, I'll find deep stone or hardwood trees, because they can bear it if I need to wail, to release some of the things that are in the spaces that I hold. And there are many indigenous grounding practices that we do as well, that are useful.
Mm. Yeah.
And practice mindfulness. We do a mindfulness class here in Indian country, where we're actually studying the effects of mindfulness, which has always been an indigenous way of being, to be fully present. How could we hear what was happening in the woods if we weren't comfortable with stillness?
Mm. Mm. I'm trying to imagine an application of your wisdom and taking that Facebook space that you created with those folks from growing up, and these potential schisms, if you will, that have been politicized, And I'm imagining a bunch of people who disagree. I'm imagining people whose beliefs require my annihilation or violence being waged against me or others that I love, or whether I love them or not, just other people. I'm imagining folks who are in deep conflict. I'm imagining folks who are have a history of abuse or trauma between them. And I'm imagining what a circle with those kinds of energies would be. And I'm imagining with those histories, with those stories, with those feelings, I'm imagining everyone sitting quietly together and just breathing. And I'm imagining how long it would take for everyone to be grounded in that space. I'm imagining the different levels of risk people would feel being in that circle. But if there was no real threat of violence, like if we could remove at least the threat of physical violence, spoken violence, and we were all just sitting here. This feels very kumbaya, but I'm really just trying to imagine like what would the actual space and work be of getting to a place where we could look at someone in the eyes who may have wanted to destroy us and not be afraid. To do that from a place of groundedness and to work love from there. And I'm thinking about how much work would be required to even get a space like that to exist. And I'm thinking about how much conspires to prevent us from being in those kinds of spaces. And in the realm of dreaming, and in the realms of transformative justice and people holding circles and people doing the work of restoration, I know this work is happening, and I'm just thinking about scale. I'm thinking about how much harm. I'm thinking about how much harm and the amount of love work that will be required for us to heal.
Yes.
And there's this really wonderful scholar, Joanna Hedva, who I got to see speak theory, sick woman theory, which is really wonderful. And I return to all the time. And part of what Joanna Hedva shared in the talk was a belief that if we actually took the time to heal, to dedicate ourselves to the healing work that we needed to honor the sicknesses that are ever present with us and that our society's dis-ease has engendered amongst us, that we wouldn't have time to do any other work besides healing, and that would disestablish capitalism. Which I love. If we really just committed to the work of healing, we wouldn't have time to do anything else but nourish ourselves and care for ourselves and each other. Because that's how hurt we all actually are. That's how much this planet and our societies and our cultures and people within them are hurting. That's some deep intelligence to me. And yeah, so I'm honoring your love work vision, and I'm thinking about what it's going to actually take to get there.
Well, and I'd like to comment on that. So I said work our love, and to me, one of my personal beliefs is I don't offer correction without connection. I don't believe that it would be useful and it would be egoic. even if it was somebody, like I know that there are many people who want to do me harm, but if I don't have connection with them, then from an indigenous and organizing point of view, I'm looking for somebody who does, so that person can go get their cousin. So for me, it's not that we put a whole bunch of people in a room and do more harm. I'm not about that at all.
Yeah.
It's that we, like I was clear in my body that I would not heal from this disruptive disconnection that said, screw you, to people that I cared about once upon a time, without offering them something that could lead us to a place where we could stay in relationship. So that's what I meant by working the love. And for me, it's our love. It's who I'm in relationship with, who wants to do this work to see what's on the other side. And then I also want to offer that because this is science fiction, we will figure out how to do it in larger scale as we go, as more of us are healing and working to heal ourselves. And not that we ever get whole, but that we begin to out ourselves. I mean, I try to out myself as much as I can, because people think that I'm super confident and super this and super that. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm also like in my closet sometimes thinking, what the hell did I decide to take that on for? So, and especially with emergent work, there's so much shadow to that. Like the imposter syndrome and emergent work is like real. So, you know, as we begin to have language for these things and share these things from a deep level and share our learnings and weave in what I call evolutionary flexibility. Like I'm just crafting ideas and notions that are coming to me because I have time to sit in stillness a lot. And I really want to offer these to next generations who can take and play with them and massage them and move them forward, because we are human. I mean, Grace Boggs, the struggle of the 21st century is to become more human beings. So, and this is so much of this is tied to our biology that we just don't even understand, that we come naturally afraid of each other, and then add on the racialized trauma in our bodies and the current pandemic and the microaggressions and the situation, the racism that we're living in. All of it has us activated. And I see it in movement spaces right now too, for all our best intentions, even in movement spaces. We don't know how to deal with the conflict because we don't understand them. The largest part of it is our biology. If we just calm our biology, then we can see more clearly what's really the conflict and what really needs to happen.
Thank you. Yes. I really appreciate the no correction without connection.
That's just me. Y'all can correct whoever you want.
that's no, I appreciate that. And I want to like really honor that part of what I hear you saying, or what you shared helped me see is that the circle that I was imagining is actually a lot of small circles. Right. But it's everybody committing to doing that. You know, that's the scale. In my mind is in my vision right now is not that we're all in one big circle. I'm imagining everyone committing to that process of restoration, right? And right relationship. If we all committed to that, how different things would be, but also just all the work that it would take to just get that commitment.
Yeah, but if we don't, what are we going to do? And in right relationship with ourselves first.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, what are we going to do? I'm convinced the reason we're bumping into each other is because we're not in right relationship with ourselves. And so we're just running away from that. All this activity is just running away from our pain. Deal with your pain. Won't kill you. Not dealing with it will.
Listen, that's real. That's so real. So real.
And we don't have it. How could it be any other way? How could it be any other way?
There's this book I read a while ago. I can't remember who recommended it to me, but it's called When the Body Says No. And I know there are a number of other books that have a similar sort of title or suggestion, but I don't know how this person pronounces their name, Gabor Mate, perhaps. But in the book, he's asserting that similar to what you've shared, that this, like our biological response to fear, can, which manifests as certain chemicals being released in our body. That if we live in a state of constant fear, right, that becomes like an ongoing stress response.
Mm-hmm.
And that in much of contemporary life for humans, that fear is not actually life-threatening. There are a lot of stories that are creating this permanent state of fear and stress. And that if we don't release those as emotions that get shared, they build up and take the form of disease in our bodies. And so he argues basically that everybody needs to be in therapy, basically, and or that's putting it in a little flippantly, but that there have to be like intentional processes by which people are really able to express their emotions and unexpressed emotion, particularly uncomfortable emotions, particularly anger, actually, he argues in the book, actually destroys your immune system and leads to all kinds of diseases, particularly things like cancer, autoimmune disorders, neurodegenerative diseases, that those are all the body saying no when the person was not able to do so or did not decide to do so. And that those unsaid no's build up in our bodies and take the form of disease. Yes. That is often very hard to diagnose from like a Western medical perspective.
Yes, and not, I mean, I get everybody says therapy, but for me as a cultural worker, it's not always therapy. It's the other ways for us to just have space to be able to metabolize what's going on. And I just want to raise up Resmaa Menakem's work because, so much of my work is based in his work, as well as just there's so much good somatic work in there. So I didn't want to miss an opportunity to lift that up.
Thank you.
Yes, we're carrying this in our bodies. And for me, as I came to understand this, it liberated me in many ways, emotionally and spiritually and intellectually, because now I'm aware that a lot of the thought processes I was carrying around were just in my body, this sense of there was like almost in my blood, this sense of not having value, that as I began to do this deeper somatic healing work, I began to see myself as like a human being. Like it's fascinating, the internalized oppression that comes along with, this race society that we live in and is constant every day. So when I say this thing of really finding ways to love ourselves, it's not like an arrogant sort of love. It's the kind of love that says, I matter, like in very real ways. And we'll run around saying Black Lives Matter and Indigenous lives matter and all of that, but are we counting ourselves in that? Like, is it just them or is it me too? And I mean, in a real way. And if so, then how is that showing up? Not just talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Whoa. Okay. Where did the time go? I should know by now that in these shows and in conversation with you, my friend, that time will move in very quick and rapid ways. So thank you so much for your open sharing and for bringing us back to the body, reminding us about the importance of connection, speaking about this love work that we could all use some more of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing there's just too little of. Are those the lyrics?
Yes.
Love's in need of love today. Many a great singer-songwriter has told us. Thank you, Stevie. We can't have too much of it.
Nope, never. Never.
All right. Kim, do you want to tell people about where they can give their love offerings?
Yes. So this year we're having the 4th annual Lumbee Film Festival. So excited about it. Dan Brawley's on the call with us, and we just started the planning. It's going to be the second weekend in July. But Ron's going to place a link. Cucalorus is our fiscal sponsor. So if you'll go to their donate page, and in the notes, just put Lumbee Film Festival, any love offering you'd like to offer as you work your love by way of donation, if you have it, no pressure. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. And then follow us on social media, and then look for the festival and come be part of it in July. We'd love to have you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, the link will be in the show notes / bio. So everyone go check that out, and definitely support the Lumbee Film Festival and learn more about the great work that's happening down there. Kim, is there anything that's inspiring you, or that's helping you delve deeper into your dreams and visions these days? Any texts, any shows, any music, any things that are really sparking you these
Oh my
days?
goodness, so many things. I really feel like I'm living in the flow right now. So many things. I'm really enjoying Barack Obama's book because he is really opening himself up in all the emotional ways and what that was like to carry that, and including this thing of insecurity and all of that. So I often think, well, if he could run the country insecure, I can do this little piece of work insecure. Grandmother's Hands really is, it's like a Bible for me in many ways, along with Eduardo Duran's work on the soul wound. And Sage and Adrienne Marie Brown's new podcast is quite cool. Seeing that, the first one, and then your shows. So I encourage folks to go back and check out, just because being able to dream. I'm working with companies all over the country, and the inability to have radical imagination is real. So
Mm.
anything that can help people move into a dream space and really let ourselves imagine and get outside this colonized way of thinking, go for it.
Ashe. Kim, thank you so much. It's been such a treat. Everybody, yes, please do go back and check out the archive on my website, ronreagan.com/WTBI, or here on YouTube at the What's the Big Idea channel. You can check out all of the past episodes and revisit this fabulousness that Kim has shared and all of her wisdom. The next episode is going to be March 4th with the amazing Sydney Mosley. So please, everyone, come on in and join us in a few weeks. And stay tuned. There's some more big ideas to come. I love you, Kim. So good to
I
see
love
you.
you too, Ron. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, take good care. Peace and blessings.